Call to order the Fitchburg Conservation Commission regular monthly meeting for March 5th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. The Fitchburg Conservation Commission has 7 members who serve on a volunteer basis. The commission collaborates with residents, businesses, and organizations to facilitate compliance with the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act. The commission operates under the authority granted by the Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance and the Wetlands Protection Act. This commission requests that anyone wishing to speak approach the podium, speak clearly into the microphone. Remote attendees should maintain microphones on mute for privacy. If you would like to speak, use the raise your hand function to alert the agent of your intention to comment. The commission requests that comments be limited to no more than 5 minutes in the interest of time. Meetings of this commission are subject to and abide by the open meeting law. Please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded by FATV. If a member of the in-person audience is recording this meeting, please identify yourself for the public record. At this time, please place all devices in silent mode, and I will call the roll of commissioners in attendance. Commissioner Christian?
Here.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Here.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Here.
Commissioner Tantanerawat?
Here.
Commissioner Wallace?
Here.
Commissioner Jacobs here. Also in attendance tonight is Conservation Agent Herlyn Jamie. If we could stand and Commissioner Pelletier, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Herlyn, do we have any announcements to make today?
No, none that I can think of.
Okay. Any commissioners have announcements? There being none, okay, let's move to the first item on our agenda. Just to note for the record, as last month indicated, we continued the Oak Hill Country Club Solar LLC Shea Street to May, so that is off our agenda for this month. The next item is Townsend Realty Trust, a planned unit development of 4 residential buildings. Again, the applicant in that case has asked for a continuance. I will entertain a motion and a second for that continuance.
Motion to continue.
To the April meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second for continue to our April 2nd meeting. We can do that with a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? None. Townsend Street will be before us in April. Again, the next item is Mechanic Street. Notice of intent, MacPro LLC, single-family dwellings, lots 1, 2, and 3. We are waiting on the peer review that we asked for last month. The peer reviewer has not been assigned yet. So again, the applicant is requesting a continuance. Do I have a motion and a second, please?
Motion to continue. Motion to continue. Second.
Okay, again, let's do voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, Mechanic Street is continued to April 2nd. Thank you very much. Moving right along. Updates. Mass DEP number 155748, solar array landscaping plan. This is for what we call Mad River Solar, Ashburnham Street. And since I am a direct abutter to this project, I am going to recuse myself from this discussion, and Vice Chair Tantanerawat will lead this portion of the meeting.
All right, thank you. So the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will hear the updates for the Mass DEP file number 155748, solar array at 0 Ashburnham Street landscaping plan. And then I'll ask who is speaking on behalf of the plan.
Sure. Good evening. Matt Bombasi with Boulder Engineering on behalf of the applicant. And I believe Lauren with the applicant is also on virtually. Any questions for her?
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, there it is.
So I guess I'm going to start by just giving a quick recap of how we got here, and then I'll run through the landscape options we got there. But I want to provide a recap just to make sure we're all in understanding and we're all at the same place, because there's been some site walks and discussions, up to here. This is the overall parcel for the solar array. There was a residential landscape buffer plan that was created right around when the previous owner had kind of taken down some trees without permission, and then there became the new amended order of conditions and some supplemental plantings. That proposed residential buffer plantings along this area here. Around here, this is the Joyce House in Otano, and then along this area here, along these houses that front on Ashburnham Street, and also back through here on the houses that back on Stickney Road. I believe the commission asked Phillips and Roy to take a look and kind of investigate site conditions as it relates to this buffer plan. I think he provided a letter on November 26, 2024, and I think the recommendations I read was that the site doesn't look like it used to. It's over the years, it's kind of grown back in and kind of successionally reforesting. They didn't feel it was tremendous need to reforest the area or disturb vegetation just to plant new saplings to revegetate it, but what they did suggest was some additional supplemental plantings behind that to screen the abutters. I think the particular area that was discussed was this area here behind these houses, because these are the most visible. I believe he noted at the hearing with the commissioner or the planning board that these houses here, you can't see the array the way it's been graded. The basin's been graded up. You'd have to stand on the roof to see the array, and similarly, these houses on Stickney Road looking westerly, that area is grown in. You can't see the array from that area. These houses here do have a little bit of a line of sight, I would expect, particularly in the winter months when all the leaves are down and coming through there. That said, we created two plans for the residential buffer plantings, one which disturbs buffer zone in wetlands and one which does not. This is the one which disturbs wetlands. For both plans, we sought mostly to provide a screening, the idea of providing a visual screen to the abutters, but also picking native plants and non-cultivar species, so native non-hybrid plants through there. So the buffer plan as proposed is green giant arborvitaes, spaced 5 feet apart along this whole boundary along here, and we actually wrapped it around this that east side for this, in consideration of this abutter over here, just in case that the commission didn't want to do the wetland impact plan. This would also provide that screening, that same view corridor, but just upland and onto the buffer zone. The green giant arborvitaes are obviously evergreens. We found them to be the most deer resistant. Some arborvitaes are deer candy. Green giant arborvitaes, our clients tell us, usually are untouched, and they also get very, very large. So that was kind of the purpose for that row. Downgrading of that, we proposed a mixture of evergreen trees and deciduous shrubs. So on both options, it's a mixture of Colorado spruce, red cedar, and some different shrubs, mountain laurel, northern bayberry, rhododendron. On the option which impacts the wetlands, we also proposed some facultative wetland species, so red chokeberry, silky dogwood, swamp azalea, different species down there. Our opinion when the applicant came to us with the proposal was we thought the commission wouldn't want to impact wetlands, so like I said, we proposed an additional plantings and screening along this east side because we thought that met the purpose of screening the butter, but without actually impacting the wetlands. But we did provide both options because I believe that's what was discussed with the commission on site.
So this would be Plan A that does not disturb the wetlands.
Yeah, actually, so I have this shows Plan B because it shows the wetland plantings on here, but Plan A, what we proposed doing was bringing the screening along this east side and providing some down gradient, larger evergreen trees just for this view corridor. So not impacting the wetlands, but still in consideration of that abutter on that side. So just wrapped it around the corner of the fence.
So still providing screening.
Exactly, yep. And it's higher in elevation. We thought that would be kind of a good balance without impacting the buffer zone or wetland, but providing the screening to that corridor.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think our goal today is, I don't know if we get buy-in, but just make sure we're on the same page with the commission and their interests. We did meet with the planning board on the 25th just to discuss the plan with them. One comment they had was, if you look at an aerial of the site, you can kind of see there's a lot of disturbance that happened down in here, and even the most recent aerials kind of show a little bit of a negative message that it looks like it's not really revegetated, although when you're on site and you see the images, it is coming in. So they asked us to consider increasing the planting through here, which we're happy to do. Our thought was from the site visits that area was successfully reforesting, but we would meet the planning board either way on that.
When was the aerial photo taken? Is it during this season?
There was one from April 2024. Actually, I think I have that one here. This is from April 2024, and it does look a little unvegetated. I found one from October, and it looks a lot greener. You can see the trees coming in, so I'll bring that to the planning board when we go. But again, we would defer to them. We want to obviously make sure they're comfortable with it.
Because when we were there, we saw that it was vegetated too.
It's starting to grow in, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but the aerial tells a pretty nasty story, so we'll have to provide some photos and things.
All right, thank you for the update. Does the commission have any comments?
Sure. When we went to the site visit, well, I have a couple things. So when we went to the site visit, we had talked about additional planting, and your planting with nothing in the wetland area really is not our jurisdiction.
Yep.
And in watching the planning board meeting, many times it was mentioned you came to the commission. Well, that's not our jurisdiction. That certainly falls under the planning board.
Sure.
We have a very targeted pinpoint jurisdiction, which is the wetland, and the planning board, they paint with a wider brush. They can have, whether it's aesthetics or whatever they want. So I don't like to see that because you came to the Concom to be used as a bargaining chip with the planning board.
Sure.
We're the Concom, they're the planning board. So even if we come up with one of these and we vote on either A or B, you still have to answer to the planning board.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be my understanding. I think right now we've proposed a plan, whether it's A or B, and then once we get to the planning board, it's up to them to, the 150-foot residential buffer is there, it's in the zoning, it's their jurisdiction. So if they so elected they wanted plantings in another location, which was conservation jurisdiction, I expect we would bring that back to the commission and just inform them the planning board asked for that.
One other question, when we were there and we were talking about additional planting, we were led to believe that you couldn't work in that area because that belonged to the current owner, not the solar. When I watched the planning board meeting, I didn't see you making that argument. When they asked for additional planting, you didn't make the same argument with them that they did with us on the site visit.
Yeah, sure. I can clarify that a little bit. I think, again, I wasn't at the site visit. My understanding was there was confusion at the site walk. They weren't 100% sure. Then they went back and double-checked, and they are able to work outside that area in case they needed to imply whatever buffer zone the commissioner or planning board had enforced. I think they weren't sure. I think they noted they might have followed up with that, but I don't know if it made it to you or to the whole commission.
Because it just seemed like we got one answer,
Yeah.
but you weren't making the same argument with the planning board.
Yeah, sure. I can't confirm that. They have the ability to work outside that limit of disturbance if
Okay,
needed.
thank you.
Yep.
So I believe we're just here to decide whether Plan A or Plan B fits our agenda most.
May I?
Yes.
Thanks, sorry. Focusing on the southerly section, the part you were just talking about, I have several reasons why I would look for a more robust planting plan to include the 50-foot buffer beyond what you've presented and the unplanted section, okay? Your planting plan is up against the fence, and there's 50 feet of untouched restoration. One that does include Conservation Commission jurisdiction is water flow, water retention, and water velocity. The more robust planting you have between your development and the houses below will reduce runoff, both retain the water and slow the water down. I think that's within our jurisdiction with the water flow, whatever, wastewater. Secondly, the value of trees in managing a warmer climate. hardly negotiable, and the more robust planting plan would contribute to that effect. And lastly, the planning department's interest was the clearing went on without planning board approval, and they would not have approved the natural vegetation that existed, the removal of it within the 50 feet. And it's gone now, and there was the owner suggested that he'd be happy to restore the vegetated buffer way back when. The only thing that's changed this time. So if he was willing to do it then, we'd look for him to do it today. And you stated a couple minutes ago that you'd be happy to do that, and I would look for that. Thank you.
Can I provide some clarification?
Please.
The runoff is jurisdictional to us from the original site disturbance of the solar installation, which was remediated with the detention basin. So they have met the standards of that. I just want to clarify that we're not looking for additional remediation for runoff by using this. The buffer plantings is jurisdictional to the solar arrays per zoning laws.
Okay. Thank you. Got it.
So I believe the point of the conversation today is to help decide whether Plan A or Plan B is more appropriate.
Yeah, and if I could, I guess one selfish goal of mine would be just when we're talking with planning board, we're going to defer to whatever they require. My understanding would be that the commission would prefer not to disturb wetlands and buffer zones to provide plantings, take down plantings to put them in, but I just want to clarify that not that we would, it'd be totally up to the planning board, but at least know that context, that the commission's preference would be not to disturb wetlands.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Were there any others with questions?
The abutters?
Yeah.
If there's any abutters who have questions? Are there any abutters who have questions?
Excuse me. So by not going into the wetlands, the greater good is not to disturb the wetland. Do we lose our interest in a more robust planting plan? Can we, it has been done before, an alternate site for restoration, an alternate site for vegetation. It happens all the time.
I don't think we lose our interest. So when I made my previous statement, it was just with the clarification of that.
And I understand it. So now I'm saying, can we take our interest in the wetlands and distribute that planting plan outside of the wetlands as a remediation? And I think that we can, because it happens all the time.
I think my recommendation to the Conservation Commission would be to apply a planting plan that would be most beneficial to those surrounding wetlands. And if that means a more robust plan, I think I would advise the commission to go in that route.
Thank you.
So the agent would advise a more robust plan.
I would advise the commission to take the plan that benefits the resource area the most.
Which would be disturbing,
It would be
mildly disturbing to create more plantings.
It would be completely up to the commission.
Right, just taking your opinion into
It's
effect.
good.
I do have a comment, if I can. Joyce Jacobs, I'm the director of Water 778 Ashburnham Street, and I just want to clarify, when we talk about the wetlands, we're really talking about the wetland in the corner that is shown in this plan, not the wetlands to the north of the drive, just to clarify so that you're okay that we're not talking about working in the wetlands, because the last time that we had Warren and others in, that was taken off the table because that has been replicated 2 or 3 times, and we don't want to go in and disturb that area again. So the only wetlands area that we're talking about is on the south side. It's actually behind Mr. Kelly's house on Stickney Road, if that's appropriate.
Thank you.
But there's no vote on this, right? We're really just giving our opinion on which we would prefer, essentially.
Correct.
Okay.
It's not an official vote because it is on there, because it's not it's vague language on the order of conditions, but we need to send them back. I would advise the commission to send them back with a preference on a plan to the planning board, so then the planning board can finally decide.
I would like to go with Plan B with the planning and the wetland. And that would satisfy us, but they still have to answer to the planning board. So it would be Plan B plus going to the planning board.
Correct. Yeah, this is a requirement for their special permit through the planning board, yeah.
Right.
Commissioner Pelletier, do you have a preference on Plan A or B?
I can go with Plan B.
Commissioner Donnelly?
I'd second Mark's proposal.
Commissioner Wallace?
Third.
Third? All right, I think you have it.
Cool, awesome, yeah, no, I really appreciate your time, thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
And like I said, if the planning requires anything else that's not shown on Plan B, we'll send it to the commission just so you can be updated on the latest plan and come in if needed.
We appreciate it. And the vice chair recognizes Commissioner Commissioner Jacobs returning.
Commissioner Tantanaro, thank you very much for that.
Nice job.
Matt, thank you very much for your presentation. And we're going to move on to our next item, which is updates that were supplied to the commission from both Unitil and Keolis for their yearly operational plan for maintenance. If anybody has any questions, there really is not anything that we do. They provide that as information, especially when they're working in close to the riverfront area, so that we know that they are going to be working there. But it really is just for us to know that they are working in close to the riverfront. If there were anyone have any questions on either one of those proposals?
Do you ever try to stop?
No. No, I mean, this is regular yearly scheduled maintenance, but they just provide as a, letting us know that they are working in sensitive areas, and they're mindful of that, so. Okay, there being no other discussion on that, we're going to move to open discussion of the commission. And if hopefully everybody has printed a copy. Commissioner Donnelly last month asked a very important question about when we send out an order of condition and there has not been a contractor assigned to a building plan, how does that contractor then know what the limits are and all of that? And that's in our special conditions. So I wanted to talk about a little bit today so that we have new members. When we say we're going to approve an order of condition with our standard special conditions, I just want everybody to be aware of what the standard special conditions are, so that we all, if anybody doesn't have copies, I can share this one if we want to pass that down. Just so that we know, and if there's any question or any concerns or whatever, but this is what we mean by this is what our standard condition is.
And also, can I make a comment?
Go right ahead, Herlin.
Pre-construction site walks or meetings are pretty, sorry, I am, my brain is not functioning well today. They're pretty standard practice for me. If anybody is interested in joining me or has questions, concerns, feel free to reach out. They usually happen very early in the morning before the project starts. I show up with an order of conditions and make sure that people on site have them. I look for the DEP file number, and then we go through certain erosion control measures that have to be established prior to the start of work, and then I get a start date from whoever's doing the construction. But if anybody's ever wanting to or interested, if there's an order of condition that really sticks out to you and you want to see how the process goes, you're more than welcome to join me anytime.
So,
Recording
I've
timeline?
never been, so I'd like.
not,
Shall be recorded, but no recording timeline.
no, because sometimes they go through other recording timeline. We don't put in a timeline as to, it says that should be recorded, but we don't tell them when.
Oh, the order of conditions?
Yep.
Yes,
You hold them to that.
I do hold
Very
them to
good.
that. So it's, the order of conditions is issued fairly quickly after you guys vote on it and I get signatures. There's a 10-day appeal process starting the day it gets mailed out. So the date on the certified notice, that's when the date of appeal starts. It's just 10 calendar days. So no weekends included. Then they can record it. They cannot start any work on site before that order is recorded, and I need that back within 14 days. If I don't have it back in 14 days, I then call the applicant and say, you haven't recorded this, what is happening? Because it delays other permits throughout the city. So they're, in conjunction with this order of condition, they're applying for either curb cuts or building permits, and all that gets delayed if we don't have an order of conditions that's recorded.
So even though
I
it's not
delay it.
laid out in a legitimate timeline, this is her operating procedure. And this is what we want to talk about, because I want everybody to be comfortable how we're going about enforcing what we're doing.
How about this one? They have their stepping stones, their walking papers when they go to town hall. Who comes first? Zoning, planning, conscom. Who plays who against who? What do they need first in order to get step number 2, in order to get step number 3? I don't want to slow anybody down, but I bet you they're all different, but what trumps? Who trumps who?
Building. So the first initial, there's a process. The first initial step is a form of intent. What do you want? What do you want to do? Once you fill out that form of intent, it goes directly to the building commissioner, and then he toggles along everybody who might require permitting. So ZBA, planning, conscom, and then whoever else. I usually go first in order because the order of conditions can sometimes change site plans. If you want to build a house and it's in the buffer zone and we ask you to move it, that's priority. And this is a conversation that I can have with you guys anytime as well. Sometimes our stuff is, the issue is that Wetlands Protection Act is not jurisdictional to anybody else except conscom. So if a house needs to be moved due to the buffer zone, nobody else can request that change but us. I don't know if anybody's following along.
Yep.
So conscom, it is preferred that conservation goes first.
Mark, you asked that, and I've always asked that. So now the other thing is that my thought always, we're applying a Massachusetts law, and zoning applies to local jurisdiction. Planning has subjective review. We don't. Our review is less subjective than anybody else's, right?
We have state law and then we have a city bylaw.
Correct. We work under the ordinance mostly.
Planning can say, I don't want blue, I want red.
Yes.
That's subjective. So ours is more finite. So they may come to us first and get what they want, if you will, and go to another department and say, well, they gave it to us, right? Okay. I'm comfortable if that's the way it has to be. That's the way it's got to be.
Well, I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. I don't think that because, and Commissioner Christian made the point in the last applicant, that you can't use us to justify what you need to do before other boards and commissions.
We come first.
But we come first, yes, but that doesn't mean that we are endorsing the entire project as it relates to other boards and commissions. They still need to get everybody else to sign off on that. Because we're not looking at it with a planning board or a zoning board eye. We're only looking at it with blinkers or blinders on where it's concerning the wetlands. But what happens is because we go first, everybody takes this little, flag and says, hey, Conscom approved it, and now, as sort of a enticement to say, hey, you should too.
We haven't bumped into this in a long time, but the cumulative effect of a development, we haven't had any big ones, but when they change, either planning or zoning, change their plans after we've okayed it, the cumulative effect could change on our wetland jurisdiction.
Yes.
On our wetland decision.
And that is also,
Come back to us with any change of.
right, where they have to come, and I know it's in the order of conditions, but it says that they have to come back if there's any substantial changes to what is written in the order, they need to come back for a modification or an
I
update.
think you gals got this under control.
Well, but this is what I want this part of the meeting to be about, so that I'm not sure that everybody was aware of what are the special conditions. We want to be as open and sharing with everybody how we operate and what happens just after we've been in this meeting. Now what happens when we go forward. So, and if anybody has any questions or concerns, and again, that came up because of your question last month that said, how do we get the contractors involved? And so just to make sure that you're aware. I'm sure you've seen changes to this standard special conditions over and over and over the years. It's
I like how
probably
brief it is,
updated.
but if it includes everything and it can be that brief, other departments ought to take it under.
But then we add other special conditions that are appropriate just to that project. And that's
That's a
where
boilerplate.
that comes about, so. Anything else to add, Herlin, that?
No, I just wanted to add to the point that you said, an order of conditions should not be, what I hope the commission is doing is not having an order of conditions impede on the authority of other boards within the city, which is not what we're in the business of doing. But I also think that we can set precedent with the order of conditions because we have seen in the past where people want structures moved for aesthetic reasons that aren't really feasible for the Wetlands Protection Act or for the city ordinance. So I think that it could be a by-project issue where some projects, yes, you need our approval and you need to show planning board or whoever it is that this is approved this way because of the Wetlands Protection Act and, the city ordinance. So, it's some projects, when you said that you didn't want people to go to the other boards and say, well, this was approved, but sometimes it does need to be, this is approved this way because of the
You're
Wetlands
right.
Protection Act.
Exactly, because it's approved that way, but again, that's why I'm trying to preface that with, it might not be an endorsement of the entire project as a
Correct.
whole, because anything that's outside of that wetlands jurisdiction, everybody else has control over, and they're going to do what they're going to want to do in their space, just like we are doing with ours. But
When we put we put the stamp that this will accommodate the Wetlands Protection Act.
Right. But in watching the planning board meeting with Mad River Solar, and they were pushing for the rest of that buffer, I felt watching it, they were using us as a bargaining chip. Well, Concom said it's okay. Well, we're talking about the corner over here, not all of that. And I think we're going to see that more and more, where we're talking about plans. They come before us and they don't know if there's going to be 3 or 4 houses. Okay, so you're getting a blanket okay, and then you're going to go to the next step saying Concom said it was okay. That's
But
how
I think
I
it's too, it's also on the other boards to know what we have for jurisdiction.
We're staying in our own lane.
Understanding that we stay in
We're
our
trying
lane.
to stay in our own lane.
That's what I'm saying, but I think if they need to make sure they're looking at their purview as well, and not like ours is smaller and more.
But even if we wanted to leave our lane, we couldn't.
Yeah, that's what
we're
I-
stuck within our standards.
Right.
And I think they do, Brad, that most of them, we have a good working relationship
Yeah.
with all the other boards and
Yeah, I'm not saying-
commissions. So, yeah, you're right. Everybody kind of knows, here's the lane that we work in.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's aware of that. And if there's any overlap, such as the last project that was within there, it's like, some of it is here, but some of it is planning. And, planning wants something else, they're going to ask for something else. And as long as it doesn't impact the wetlands, then they're, like you say, they paint with a much broader brush, so they can do that. But I just wanted, as we talk about updates and things, to make sure that if anybody has any questions or looks for information like this, I mean, this is what this time is for, so that we as a board know what we're doing and what we're impacting, and anything that anybody else wants to talk about, that's what this time is for. Commissioner Donnelly, any other input? Go ahead.
No, I guess it's outside of this. It's a community discussion. I attended a meeting recently and about flooding in downtown, and there's an entity out there planning flood control measures, if you will, for the downtown business district. As the water comes off that hill or out of that sky, finds its way to the Nashua River, to alleviate any flooding problems that we have between Moran Square and Railroad Bridge on River Street. And I shared my comments with them. I'll share them with you. I think I tried to explain to them. I know one got it, and then I was a little jumbled in my message, is that when you're trying to save energy at home, you can put new windows on, and you can change the thermostat, and you can put weather stripping on the door, and you can insulate. And the single greatest conservation measure you can do is insulation in your home. And I tried to explain I shared with that group that's putting together a plan that the greatest flood control thing that they can do is wetland conservation. And so anything regarding open space and or wetland conservation between Moran Square and there, and it costs little to nothing, green space, trees, et cetera. Wetland conservation is the greatest, the most efficient manner of controlling flooding that they have at their disposal. I just shared it with them. I don't know if it made a difference. I do know that there's in the interest of temperature and water volume, a whole lot of discussion was about kiosks and park benches and bicycle paths and such. And those are all well-intended, and I tried to tell them, what is it we need? Not what we want, what is it we need? And how does it address temperature and flooding? Because those other peripheral things, everybody wants them. There's a lot of things I want, but what is it we really need to address the problem? Again, I shared those comments, and I think there's probably a lot louder voices than mine. I can be loud, but I think there's more voices in the planning process, and you'll see as it goes forward whether they listened or...
Thank you for representing our interests so well.
Take care of Mikey. That's my interest, and I feel strongly about it, and I know it to be true. How about that?
Okay. All right, I think, actually, if we have, no one else has any additional business, this is going to be...
I just have one
Commissioner,
comment.
go right ahead.
Kind of to piggyback on Mike's comment. This past week, I spoke with Chris Capone, and I was asking him about, his opinion of these plantings and so forth. And at the end of the conversation, we discussed, he did not recall in this city or in surrounding cities the last time he reviewed a forestry cut plan for the purpose of forestry cutting, not associated with development. Forestry for the sake of forestry. He can't recall the last time he reviewed that plan. Everything has to do with development. That's scary.
Sad.
Dan Sear would have been the last person who did that with Cogswell Park.
Yeah, and that means that forest is lost forever. And that then relates back to the flood control issues because we've lost that sponge that's going to absorb some of that critical area that we need that. So, I mean, it's an unfortunate point, but there's so little room left for development anymore that where do they go? They go to the forests.
Go up.
Yeah. Small footprint go up, yeah?
I don't know what I don't know, but does the Conservation Commission see any interest or any value in inviting a forester to come to us and tell us what his responsibility is to us and what the developer is looking for? Just a casual conversation like we're having right now.
I think that, I don't know
You
if
can reach out to Chris.
yeah,
He's our regional forester.
I talk to him all the time. I'm sure that he would. I've actually mentioned something like that to him then. I don't know what his hours would want to be. I don't know if he'd come at night, but.
well, and we may not in that case, I mean, we can do it as an informal meeting. We could post it as an agenda so that if anybody wants to do it, but we could, whoever's available at what time.
I'd rather do it on site. I'd rather do it in the woods, only because he can give you, Dan Sear
Yeah,
told me, he put his thumb up like that and he was looking through his prism, the prism of a forester, and he said, that's what you got. And he could do it in here, but it made a little more sense out there with trees, and this is how many board feet you got, this is.
That's how they take a forestry inventory. They measure it out, then they have waypoints. The prism represents 30 feet around. They take what they have in a 30-foot of what diameter, whether it's pole cutting or what have you, then they extrapolate on the big map. They can give you, I have an inventory of 40 acres of my property, how many board feet I have standing. So when you sell your land, you can actually have a piece of paper and say, this is what I have for an inventory.
So we don't need Chris, we got Mark.
No, but I think, and if that's fine, and we can do it, we can post it as an informational site visit, if that's, or even here informational visit, whatever, so that everybody can be together. Maybe it needs to be a Saturday or something or whatever, but if Herlin and Mark can work on that with Chris Capone, that would be, I think, an opportunity.
And to Mark's point, Chris, he doesn't know what his schedule is. He's working?
Yeah.
Pay him. Pay him for his time. I would find it valuable.
Is
Yeah.
that something that, for the properties that we own, we could get an inventory from them?
I just walk in the woods and.
No, that's a big
formality of
that would
That's a
cost lot of
liability.
money, But just to come and talk to us on whatever topics, I'm sure he would be receptive. He's a service forester, that's what he does.
Yeah, I think it would be just a general, how do we maintain forests maybe that are there? What do the forests mean to us? How does that relate to?
He's here often. When I get calls of people who have runoff from sites abutting, clear cutting, he comes out and goes on their property, talks to the butters, sets time. So he's local. He's our regional forester.
So I'll tell you the real reason, if you have a minute, why I reached out to him, because I know that when we were dealing with Mad River, they had a concept. And in that first concept of a map, they had that they were going to plant oak trees, white oak, red oak, or what have you. So there is a point where you can say, if you're going to plant 6 to 8 foot oak trees, and you're going to put them right here. So we go on a site visit, and okay, we can stand there and say, if we do nothing and let it grow, it'll grow. But there's a certain succession. So when you first have an opening, it'll come back as grass and so forth. Then you go into the berry stage where you have raspberries and so forth. So my question to Chris was, how long will it be before I have a 6 or an 8 foot oak tree right here? 20, 30 years? Because you have your other successions coming up. You said you're way shy. I printed out one copy. I gave it to Herlin, and my
I have
printer
it
was
here
getting low.
online.
But what'll happen next is you'll have white pine is the first to come in. That will live its lifetime before it dies of natural causes, which could take 100 years. So before you're going to have a 6 foot oak tree right here, could be over 100 years. So when somebody says they're going to do a planting, you're cutting out the middleman by starting off with 6 and 8 foot oak trees. So going the natural route, you'll get there, but none of us are going to see it.
The truth be
So
known,
that's why I reached out to Chris. I wanted his perspective, because I'm also stretching it, and I asked what he thought of that. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, the eighth interest is wildlife habitat. So when you come and level 30, 40 acres, and you hang a carrot that you're going to plant some oak trees, is it a far stretch that we insist you come back with something?
and I think for a while I was of the impression that this forestry cutting plan that we were entitled to it. That's a courtesy that a forester provides us, or the owner or the forester provides us, that a forestry will be taking place under his authority and not under the Conservation Commission's authority. And so you learn along the way, and that's whether you knew it or not. That's the way it is. Yeah.
But all that information that, you shared with Chris, it would be good that, if we can, get a little bit of his time so that.
I was just
others-
trying to get some
it's
insight
up-
when we talk about
Perfect
plantings
question.
or not plantings. Does it matter? Does it not matter? So I went to the service forester, Chris Capone.
Okay. All right. Did anybody else have anything that we want to bring up? Or I think if not, do I have a motion and a second?
Motion to adjourn.
And so we have a motion to adjourn our Conservation Commission regular meeting for March 5th. I have a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We are adjourned until April 2nd, and it's 6:47.